Once again, welcome to Oracle Database Administration, Competency 3, Supporting Database, Chapter 12, Dealing with Backups. Before I get into the meat of this chapter, I want to give you a little true story. Was at the desk, phone rings. I get a call from the attorney for the organization. Says, "Hey, we have an issue. We need to get some backup. We need for you to get some files." No problem. And once again, this is one of those technology time-sensitive issues. As time goes, technology changes. Well, we used to do backups on like 8mm cassette tapes. That was the choice for media backup storage. Got a call, no problem. Called archives, got the files back. So I had in my hand an 8mm cassette tape. The problem was that technology had advanced such that the actual cassette was like 7 or 8 years old. We had no tape mechanism to get this thing on there. So, you know, I'm sitting there and the guy said, well, you know, we need the information for tomorrow morning because that's when we have to pick up the stuff because of the lawsuit stuff. And I go, okay. And in a panic, I called every store in town that I could find to see if I could find a tape reader that I could use, plus the software and stuff to make it work. Man, I struck out. You know, people say, you're crazy, man, that stuff's all, you know, you need to go look at Goodwill or something. I said, what? The other guy, they said one of the Goodwill stores has a tech store. Why don't you go over there? So I called over there, ran over there, and sure enough, they had a radio PC on there with a tape drive, and you know, I got an emergency funding scenario, was able to get home or get to the office and use that obsolete mechanism to put the tape in there to be able to extract the information. But then that created another problem. How many more situations do we have where we have the information we need on these cassette tapes? Because what had happened was, as technology had gone, they knew that was not the best way to do it, so they went to the array, and they had a new elaborate system that was better suited for archive and retrieval and backup mechanisms than we had 10 years ago. So that said, that gets to the point of what type of media will your organization choose to serve as a backup mechanism, as an archive mechanism. Understanding that that's resource intensive and it's dollar intensive, so you have to figure out what's the best approach for the organization. Usually what happens is that on a daily operation you have disk, everything's saved to disk, and then periodically you do it to tape backup. And then if you're going to do it to tape backup, do you do a full, which could take a week if you have a large system, or do you do partial, only those records that have changed? And the other thing is, sometimes you can do a physical type where you'll pick one disk and back it all up. Or you can do a logical event where you can say, I want to be able to back up and recover everything related to this particular event. So there are some different approaches you can use. Now there's always, and this goes back to the September 11th, 2001 when we had a tragedy. We have to understand that in today's world you have to have a methodology to address tragedies or emergencies of sort. So one of the things you should consider, whether you can have a hot site or a remote location that you can use in case a emergency arises. It could be just as simple as a tornado or a flood. You know, it's just something like that. It doesn't have to be a tragedy per se, but just world being the world and weather being the weather. Now, in light of that, when you establish a system, one of the business policies, one of the business rules is, how often do you do a backup? What do you back up? Once you determine how often the backups will occur, once you determine what you will back up, there are some automated programs in Oracle, RMAN comes to mind, that you can address, and it will automatically do stuff in the background on weekends or whenever. And then there is those specific user managed events where someone specifically wants to retrieve or set aside a specific item. Some guy's working on a project. Well, he's through with that project, so he wants to back it out of the system because it's no longer active. And that's one of the things that you have to do is develop an active event scenario. So how long does something stay in the system before it goes from active to non-active? And you have to figure out that if something is irrelevant for a certain period of time, you take it off the system because it's burning up resources, it's not being productive. So Chapter 12 speaks to the methodology an organization will establish to develop backup systems, the type, whether it's, like I said, disk or tape, whether it's going to be full, partial, physical, logical, whether it's going to be automated in some kind of batch event every night, every week, every month, whatever. And then those user events where somebody just finished some work and they don't need that, you know, clogging up the system, so they want to flush it out of the system. And basically that finishes up Chapter 12.